country, track and field, and wrestling. And we did a lot this year covering the NJCAA cross country championships and the lead up to
Mhm.
that. And in doing so, we also tapped into the 3C2A. And then I was doing a little bit more poking around and stumbled upon the Northwest Athletic Conference and was like, oh, we've got a whole nother region that doesn't participate in the NJCAA. Let's see if we
Yeah,
can celebrate those schools and honor those coaches and those athletes and learn a little bit more about the Northwest Athletic Conference. Because we, like I said, in covering wrestling, we have had some folks on from Clackamas because they were part of
sure.
the NJCAA. So, yeah, we're excited to learn more about not only the program and the school, but also maybe a little bit more about the Northwest Athletic Conference, and then also as running geeks that we are, you're in Coos Bay, so I mean we
Sure.
probably got some
Right.
questions about that as well too for you. So we're
Yeah.
excited to get into it with you.
Well, I'll do my best. I appreciate that. The NWAC's been around. I think our school joined the NWAC in 1970. So, I my understanding is largely a lot of community colleges here in the Pacific Northwest who had an opportunity to have a lot of programs if they didn't have to spend the cost to go to NJCAA championships and things like that. So they kind of banded together to form our own junior college conference, which has worked great.
Cool. We're gonna get more into it and learn a little bit more, and again learn a little bit more about Coos Bay too, because that's I've been to Oregon once, but I've only spent time in Eugene and Portland. But
Sure.
I'm sure it's every runner's dream at some point to make the homage out to the motherland of Coos Bay, of
Yeah,
the
well, definitely when
birthplace.
I was at Marshfield, if it was a summertime and I was coaching the USATF youth club, and we'd just be out there on Prefontaine track. And if there was something, a big thing going on in Eugene, whether it was the trials or whatever, there'd always be a break day or something in that. And then all of a sudden, just people would just show up in the parking lot and they just wanted to run a lap, and I'd give
Yeah,
them the nickel tour, and that was always fun. So
that's awesome.
yeah.
Sweet. Ladies and gentlemen, howdy and aloha. We are here, you are there, and you are now rocking with the best. Welcome back to another live episode of Air Bros Radio. Tonight we're taking off the spikes and heading to Coos Bay, Oregon to break down Southwestern Oregon Community College's first ever NWAC Women's Cross Country Championship, a historic moment for the Lakers and a statement season for a young, hungry roster. But before we get rolling, you all know the drill. This is a value for value show. So if you're getting any value out of anything we're doing over here, please, if you feel so inclined, click on that link, buy us a coffee. You know how much the Prince and I love our coffee. Um, Go ahead and hammer that like button. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Drop a comment. Every view, review, and share helps us grow and give back to the support sports we love. Follow us on Instagram at Airey Bros Radio. As I mentioned, subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And this episode, like all episodes, are fueled by Black Sheep Endurance for all your ultra marathon coaching and nutrition needs. And let's not forget, we're here to shine a light on the programs, athletes, and coaches we wish we had access to growing up as we were going through the recruiting process. If you're an athlete, parent, or a coach looking for what real development looks like, we're here to help you find the right fit, the right culture, and the right opportunity. On to tonight's guest. He is the architect behind the biggest breakthrough in NWAC cross country this year. Coach Steve Delgado has turned Southwestern Oregon from a non-scoring women's program into the 2025 NWAC Women's Cross Country Champions. They were led by five freshmen, including Taylor Dickey, the NWAC champion, All-American, and runner of the year. Under Coach Delgado, as I mentioned, the women were the 2025 NWAC champions, scoring a low 45 points. The men were third, their best finish since 1970. He was also the 2025 Southern Region, 2023 Southern Region Men's Coach of the Year. He's built a championship culture rooted in development, character, and experience. And before he was at Southwestern Oregon, he built the program at Marshfield High School into a powerhouse, producing state champions, NXN All Americans, and multiple state meet record holders. He's a USATF and a USTF CCCA certified coach, a Prefontaine Memorial Run Committee member, and a lifelong Oregonian, raising the next generation of runners. Without further ado, it is an honor and a pleasure to have you joining us this evening. We do greatly appreciate your time. Coach Steve Delgado, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rich and Jimmy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's fun to learn about new things, and we thought we had our thumb on the junior college scene, and then we learned more and more about, why aren't there any Oregon or Washington schools at the NJCA? I know of Lane Community College, like what's going on? And then,
Right.
yeah, I found the link, and here we are. So we're excited to get into it. Before we get too far along, anywhere you would like to send recruits, anyone that has questions for you, wants to learn more, they're interested about what we talk about tonight, any socials you got, the floor is yours.
I appreciate that. I think maybe as a little bit of a throwback to me being a high school coach, the best way to get in touch with me is really through our athletic.net page. So if someone does a search on athletic.net for Southwestern Oregon CC, that'll take you to our page, and there's a live link with my email address, as well as if you wanted to fill out the recruitment questionnaire. But that's probably the best way to get to me.
Okay, awesome. We'll put all that stuff in the show notes for you as well too. Coach, one of the things we like to do to kick things off here, we all have our origin stories, how we got into the sport. We'd love to hear what yours is. How did you get into the sport of cross country, track and field, all things running? And then how did that lead you into coaching in Marshfield High School and then now at Southwestern Oregon?
Boy, that's a big question. I'll try to keep it short and interesting. I grew up in Southern Oregon, in Medford, and went to North Medford High School, where I actually ran cross country and track there at Bowerman Field. So it was kind of interesting that then my life took this trajectory where I ended up at Prefontaine track, but was actually a cyclist as my sport. So when you guys interviewed Phil Liggett, I was like, Phil's voice was the one that I heard in my head as a young man in the 80s, trying to live up to that Greg LeMond era of American cycling greatness. So I would love to hear sometime how you got Phil on the show, but came to Coos Bay post getting married. This is where my wife is from. She's a third grade school teacher. Our oldest daughter was a first grader and wanted to play in the local Boys and Girls Club soccer team. And my wife said, how about if you coach the team and I'll teach you how to talk to little kids? And guys, I was hooked. I was hooked on just kind of speaking into the life of young people through sport. It was super fun. Coached her for many years, then our son. And when he was a fifth grader, he said, Mom and Dad, I want to do the Prefontaine Track Club. And I was like, well, I did a little bit of track in high school. That'll be super fun. There's a great program at Marshfield. Let me go talk to the head coach, who was Mac McIntosh at the time. And I think Mac saw a future coach in the making and kind of took me under his wing and mentored me. And I moved up from junior high to high school coach for cross country and assistant coach on the track program, and was there for about 10 years before coming here to Southwestern the last 3. So it was all about my wife teaching me how to talk to first graders. And I'll be honest, college kids aren't much different. So I was well trained.
I hear you. I teach high school, so I know all about what it's like talking to
There you go.
kids.
Yeah, she said you get 30 seconds and it must include a physical demonstration.
Yeah,
So
pretty much.
there you go.
So, Coach, I am going to ask my Chris Farley question of the podcast. You spent time at Marshfield High. What's that like? And is there an aura around that school and the program?
Well, a few things about that, just kind of being track geeks, that's might be interesting to you. Marshfield is the host for the Coos County meet. It's the longest continuously held high school track meet in the state. I think this spring will be either the 115th or the 116th year that we've held a track meet. So the roots are as deep as they get. The meet was started by the very first principal of the high school, and you guys being from New Jersey, that side of the nation is a lot older than this side of the nation. So when you've got something that's over 100 years old out here in the West, it's been around for a minute. And there isn't a place that you can't go on that campus that doesn't talk about the kind of the history and the legacy of just kind of athletics, and of course all the pioneers and the timbermen and the people that got this place going. So legacy is one of the main tenets there at Marshfield High School, and a big part of that program.
Do the kids understand the impact of Steve in 2025?
That's a great question. You know, it's Pre's been gone for a long time. We have a memorial run here that also has a 5K component so that our OSAA high school athletes can come and race in their uniforms. And because it is Coos Bay, it's not uncommon for us to have some people of fairly high running stature come and visit us, whether that's Billy Mills or Frank Shorter. It's been great to be able to meet some of those individuals. Have Bill Dellinger just come down to the track and meet with your cross country kids and tell them stories about coaching Pre. I mean, that's pretty special. But it's been a long time, and I think for the students who aren't runners, doesn't mean all that much. But even now, thanks to, I think, Nike continuing and the U of O keeping Pre's spirit alive through things, it still resonates with a lot of those young people.
Coach, you're giving me goosebumps with all those names you're mentioning. Like Rich said, we are track geeks, and I can remember in second grade, Rich was educating me on it because Rich is 11 years older than me, and I was in elementary school, and I thought I was the coolest kid in elementary school because I watched Fire on the Track, and Rich made me a silk screen T-shirt with Steve Prefontaine on the back and with the quote. So thank you for sharing all that, because Steve means a lot to us and had a big impact on us as athletes.
Well, it's awesome for us on the committee because Linda's a part of that. She lives in the family home that's 2 blocks from the stadium that their father built. And she's still very involved in preserving her brother's memory. So it's really special every September when we have that event. You see people come from all over the world to participate because they're Prefontaine fans. And then for us as a team at Southwestern, we work the water station at mile 1. So it's really fun for our athletes to get out there, clap and support for all of them.
So, Coach, I want to get into the team at Southwestern, but one more Steve Prefontaine question for you.
Okay.
What's your favorite Pre movie? Without Limits or Prefontaine?
Boy, you're asking a question that's a little bit of a hot topic here amongst the Prefontaine
All right,
Memorial
tell
Run
us.
Committee. I love them both. I probably Without Limits theatrically, but I will say that it's probably less accurate. It's a little bit more cinematic. As a story, there's some things in it that aren't exactly what happened. But I think they're both great movies.
Coach, a little story for you. I went out to nationals in Portland when I was in 5th grade, and for all the runners out there, they had a screening of Without Limits, and it was before it was in theaters. And I went with my dad, who is the track geek of all track geeks, and the whole time we're watching the movie, that didn't happen. That's not. Why is Frank Shorter announcing the race? He was running.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That was definitely a very neat experience being able to meet Frank. He came here for the 40th running. I think it was the 40th running of the memorial. And we have a little parade here in town. It's a whole fun festival thing for the town. And he was kind of the unofficial guy riding in the car, waving to the crowd. And he did a thing the night before, like a Q&A, and it was great. But the best thing, fellas, you're going to freak out when you hear this maybe, but the very next day, myself, my son, who was, I think, a 7th grader at the time, and a handful of other people in the running club, we did a 6-mile cool down with Frank Shorter, where he just told us story after story. The Olympics, it was a phenomenal moment. So pretty fun stuff.
Yeah, you can't put a price tag on stuff like that, can you?
No.
So, Coach, I mean, you took over the programs fairly recently, right? You've been there for 3 years now.
This is my third
This
season.
is your
Yeah.
third season, and the women's program is really new, right? This is their second season. Was it?
This is my first season coming in. I joined the staff in January, and it is, I think, at every level, a little bit more difficult to recruit women than it is to recruit men to collegiate athletics. And so, to make matters simple for me, I was like, let me just focus on the guys. Last year I had a team, but not a scoring team, and then this year, well, I guess we'll spend maybe a little bit of time talking about that. But
Well, yeah, let's get into it. So we had a team that didn't score, to scoring 45 points and taking home the title. You mentioned that you focused on the guys the first year. Recruiting's tough for ladies. What was the light switch? What was the spark? How did you get those 5 freshmen to come to you?
well, I think any coach, it's you've got to be you have to know what your story is and who you are, and tell that story. And definitely there was a learning curve for me coming from high school to how do I recruit in the collegiate world, um, who's a good fit for who we are as a school and a program. And finally, I think I kind of figured some things out. I had told myself the third year is the year that I own. That's going to be the year that I what I've learned is really going to be able to show. So, um, was super fortunate. I think any coach that has quality athletes to have some of the guys and the gals who joined us as freshmen this year say yes, that this was a good fit for them. Um, Build a lot of relationship with them, of course, in the recruitment process. And then what's been great is to see how much they've grown and improved, not just as runners, of course, but as people. So, and that's really kind of the juice for us as coaches, right, Rich? I'm sure for you, it's, yes, you want your athletes that you coach to have performance success, but it's all about that journey.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as a young, I'm going to be 50 in February. As a young coach, it was all about numbers and times and trophies and those sorts of things. And it wasn't necessarily even about for the kids. It was more about what it was going to look like on my resume.
Sure.
Now I tell the kids, I'm here to make you better humans. If we run fast or we win wrestling matches, then that's just the cherry on top. But I'm here to make you better humans. Responsible, disciplined, hardworking, all the things that you're going to do here are what's going to take you to the next level in success in life. So if we run fast along the way, great, so be it. But be on time, do your work, make your bed in the morning, like little
Yep.
things like that, small
Yeah.
victories all along the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Jim.
Coach, all freshmen this year, correct? On the lady side?
I had two sophomores. One was a returner from last year, and the other is actually one of our women's wrestling team members
Let's
who
go.
ran when she was a high schooler in the state of Arizona, and she's part of the Navajo Nation. And for Lindsay, running is very central to who she is and her culture. And she saw it as an opportunity to really get into shape. She really liked the culture that we were building here and wanted to be part of that. And while she is our ninth runner, she, I think, finished about in the middle of the pack at the championship. So I told her, you would have been probably the fourth or fifth runner on most of the teams in the conference. She had a 2 minute PR in her 5K from her high school senior year. So she was ecstatic, and she's a phenomenal student in person. So yeah, she's my second sophomore, although her first year.
Okay.
Well, she's got two fans over here because we are runners and wrestlers, so we get that, and running is central to who we are as people as well. But
Yeah.
so you have two sophomores, the rest all freshmen. Coming into the year, did you think going from not scoring points last year to this year that, hey, we're going to win this thing?
That's a great question. Thanks for asking that. Absolutely not. I did not think that. I knew that the ladies were talented. Um, There's several teams in our conference that are perennial powerhouses. And I did not imagine that we would have that performance success that we had. But I thought, okay, we'll probably podium. We'll be a top 3 team. I think that's probably likely. But again, the growth of the ladies was, and there was individual reasons for that for each of them, but the growth of them as a group was really tremendous this year. So that being said, Spokane's a super quality program. Lane's always a program that's a quality program out of Eugene. Those are major metropolitan areas. Spokane is 10 times larger than our area here, population wise. And Coach McLaughlin there at Spokane does an awesome job with this program. I think their men, when they won this year, I think that was their 25th title. So you think the NWAC's 50 years old or so, and they've won half of them. I mean, that's a real testament to, you want to talk about a legacy and a tradition. So, yeah, we were happy to win it though.
You speak on growth. Were you seeing PRs throughout the season, or did it get to a point towards the end where they just kind of everything was coming together?
I don't know if this is a great coaching strategy or not, but it's certainly the one that I employed this year. I kind of engineered our season so we wouldn't have that early PR. In fact, we skipped a meet that we've typically gone to because it tends to run really fast and it's in the middle of the year. And I didn't want that number kind of hanging over their head in meets after that. But there is a meet that's outside of Salem, Oregon, where we have all sorts of divisions attend. It's a really big meet. The course is set up to run fairly fast. And I thought, here's a good opportunity. Every other of the competitive programs in the NWAC were going to be there. We're going to run there. And that's where most of them ran their season PRs. Understandably, when you get to the championship season, it's not about time, it's about place, especially because what happens, the cross-country weather comes in typically, right? You think about what happened in the NJCAA, right? We're watching them run through the trough of snow and mud, but they're not typically going to run that fast time at the end of the season. But it was really more in the workouts that I saw that start to build for them.
You mentioned you thought podium was a possibility. Was there at any point before the championships that you were thinking, okay, we're contending now?
Well, when we beat a number of D2, 3, and NAIA programs at that meet that I mentioned outside of Salem, and Spokane was there, and Lane was there, and all the kind of those other typical annual contenders, I was like, wow, we're pretty good. That was kind of when we knew. And then we purposely didn't spend much time talking about it. In fact, even at that meet before the race, I huddled all the ladies together outside the team tent and I said, we're just focused on us. We're just focused on us. We're just doing our thing. We don't need to worry about anything else, and just go out and execute your plan and run together, work together. And we like to say that the race is a celebration of all the work that's gone before, just to keep them kind of not getting crushed in the moment, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, we always, rankings, they're great. They don't necessarily do much for anything other than maybe bring the school some notoriety or have something to talk about in a meeting. But when you go 1-2, that's got to be those low sticks. That's got to be something special. Were you anticipating something like that, or is that a surprise?
Well, Lydia had won the Southern Regional 10 days before, and then subsequently she'd kind of had a week where she didn't feel super awesome, and I saw Taylor's numbers kind of coming on, and I'd said to Lydia, I said, you need to not put winning the championship as the only reason why this season has been great. The season has been tremendous for you. And I said to Taylor, you need to give yourself permission to win because I think that you're starting to peak and not worry about how your teammate's going to feel about that, even though she's maybe in some people's mind kind of the favorite. But then going into the race, we had said for them, hey, if everybody goes out at 6, you don't have to lead. Like just relax and stay in. And then when the race started, I ran down to the 1K mark. And as Taylor and Lydia came through, they had gapped everybody. And then after the race, I asked, well, what happened? And they said, well, about between 200 and 400 in, they looked at their watches and they were like at 6:30 pace. And they said, well, we're not going to do this. And they just kind of took off. And everybody else was, I think, just a little bit more cagey and gave them that gap that they just kind of soloed and held it until the end.
Coach, what was the split?
Oh man,
Sorry.
off the top of my head, I don't remember. I know that I think I think she was often running right under 6-minute pace most of the time.
I mean, for the team, did I say that wrong, Rich?
Oh, like the gap between the top 5?
Yeah.
1:40.
Nice.
Which is my top 4, and then a little bit of a gap to my number 5, which, since we're on a YouTube show, if I can give a quick shout out to Raina, maybe not super interesting to your viewers here to talk about somebody they don't know, but Raina first of all, she was, I think, the only lady that PR'd. And she had shown she was really coming on, and we really kind of needed her that day because in between our top gals and her were all of Spokane's top 5. So I was running around the course shouting at her, every place is going to count, every place is going to count. And she just ran her guts out and had a tremendous performance. So, yeah, so 1:40, but to tell you, Spokane's strength, 11 seconds for their top 5. They were all together.
Wow.
That's crazy.
It was exciting.
Yeah. Coach, the men got 3rd, correct?
The men were 3rd. Yeah.
So
and with a mostly freshman crew.
So two podium teams. Year 3, you said this was the year that counts. I guess it counts.
Yeah, this was the year that counted. And yeah, thank you. Yeah, the guys, it was a tremendous effort for them as a team. They were also, we didn't have any top 10 placers, but they were really solid in those team numbers, and super excited to have the majority of that crew back, along with the guys that we're signing for this year. So
now, Coach, I'm curious. Talking with the NJCAA coaches and the 3C2A coaches, obviously there's 3 divisions in the NJCAA. The Division 1 and Division 2 offer housing. We learned with the 3C2A schools that there are some schools in California that are now starting to offer housing. Is that something that exists at Southwestern?
Are you asking me
are you
asking me if we have housing or if I can pay for their housing?
No, does the college have like dormitories on campus or on-campus housing?
Yeah, we actually do, which out here in the Northwest, it's a little less common. There are other schools within our conference that have it. We are the most remote out here on the edge of the world on the coast. And so we have an apartment style complex for 400 students, of which about 250 are student athletes in our various programs, which is a huge benefit for us because that student has a real, I'm going to say their student life experience is much more like a small 4-year school. We have a lot of student life stuff that goes on campus, clubs, activities, versus maybe that more commuter experience that some people might think of is a community college thing. So yeah, it's great for us.
That's awesome. Because Jimmy and I, we were at Division III schools in the NJCA, so we were commuters. But I was looking at the roster, and you do have some out-of-state student athletes. I think there's
Oh
some
yeah.
from Las Vegas and Nevada. There's Washington. I think maybe I saw Idaho. Um, did they find you, or did you find them?
Um, uh, Now that it's year three, it's a little bit of the first, but mostly it's still a lot of work going out there and telling the story and talking with kids and connecting and finding out, are we a good fit for what they need? So yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I recruit all over the greater Northwest and the West.
Okay. And talking with some of the other coaches, in the moment, winning that first one is really tough. But then coming back to win that second one, they say is even tougher. So I guess I would say on the men's side, you've got a school that's got 25 titles. What's it gonna take to get over the hump with Spokane, and what are the ladies gonna have to do other than continue to
Oh.
do what they've been doing to get back on the top of the podium?
Um, yeah, to be honest with you, I think being on things like this is great for us, right? That we're making a little bit of a name for the program, that we can be, an option for somebody that a junior college experience is a good place to start, but they're looking for an experience maybe that's going to help them launch them into a transfer, positive transfer situation. Um, from a performance point of view, yeah, it's tough. And, for sure, the other schools, they're not just going to rest and just hand it to us next year. I'll be honest with you guys, I don't focus lots on the result. I focus a lot on the process and the journey, because one thing I've come to learn in my 20 some years of coaching, there's lots of things that happen in a result I can't, influence, and they just happen. But what I can focus on is the process and, yes, trying hard to recruit talent, building character, creating an environment where they can, maximize their ability. We just focus on those things, and then the results kind of take care of themselves. That's probably not something new that your viewers have heard, but I think it's super true.
Yeah.
Yep, spoken with true wisdom, Coach. We appreciate that. So you mentioned prior to us going live on YouTube, I'm sure some of the YouTube listeners might have caught it, but for the podcast listeners, can you get into the NWAC and what it is for people who aren't sure?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's 30 some community colleges in Oregon and Washington. We've got one member in Western Idaho as well. And many of them started in the 60s and 70s, when community colleges really took a big boost here in the country. And a decision was made that could they band together to form a conference where, with their athletics, they would compete amongst themselves. Because if we were to travel, say, to the central parts of the country for a lot of our teams, it would make it harder to have as many programs as we have. We have 13 different sports here at Southwestern, which is the most in our conference. And it's great. So we give lots of opportunities to lots of students that way. So the NWAC was formed, and the understanding is, if the NWAC offers it as a sport, any of the community colleges in this part of the country, that's what we're going to be part of. So here at Southwestern, our swim program and our wrestling programs are both part of the NJCAA. Everything else is in the NWAC.
Do you find any barrier of entry with kids being in the NWAC and not the NJCAA?
Um, what what barriers do you think there might be?
Them just thinking, hey, I want to compete nationally opposed to regionally. I know you said you guys were beating Division II schools, NAIA schools, so I know that the proof is in the pudding. I'm just curious from a high schooler standpoint.
I think when I talk that's a great question, actually. I've had some conversations with some recruits, especially in states that aren't here in the Northwest. So if I'm talking with a kid who's in Las Vegas, and they're being recruited by a junior college that does have an opportunity to go to nationals, and maybe they'll say, well, those guys can't go to nationals. But I think often the athlete that I'm trying to get and what they're interested in, that's not an end all be all thing. And then the other reality is not everybody actually really goes to nationals. So just because you're a junior college who says that you could go, that's only if you actually qualify. So the proof is in the pudding a little bit there. So it's not a huge issue for us.
And like Rich says, times don't lie.
Yeah. And we would here, just so you guys know, we would probably be the Division II because we are able to offer tuition as scholarship, but not housing. So the swim and the wrestling programs are D1. They can offer some scholarship to cover room and board costs.
Yeah, interesting. I'm curious, coming from New Jersey, we talk about this all the time, Jimmy and I, with the junior college coaches, that in New Jersey, as high school athletes, there's kind of a stigma about going to a community college or a junior college, like, oh, it's the 13th grade. But, when we talk to schools in Kansas and Iowa and Texas, some of the other schools that we've talked to, it's not necessarily the case. And maybe that's because there are, scholarships and dormitories and those sorts of things. What's the mindset of high school students in the Pacific Northwest when it comes to community colleges and junior colleges? Is there a stigma like that, or is it not? Are they more open to receptive to the idea of going to a 2-year school to maybe further their academics and progress a little bit more, get a little bit more development, and then maybe get that big time offer from a NAI school, Division II or Division I school?
That's an interesting question. I think that the answer depends on the student.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might depend on what their parents' thoughts are and what their parents' background is, and also maybe what their high school coach's background is. Yeah, some of my biggest supporters are the high school coaches who start off themselves at a junior college, and they see real value in that for their athlete, and they'll have that conversation with their athlete and the athlete's family that, hey, maybe this is an appropriate level to start at, to do, as you said, kind of leverage another year or two of growth. Maybe you get a little bit of a better opportunity, especially as we start to see roster sizes being impacted and things. That's becoming more true. But I think that one of the biggest things that has changed is the mentality about school cost. And so many families, even families that maybe could afford a 4-year education for their students, are seeing a real affordability and value in having, a start at a junior college, especially if that child is maybe considering they're going to go on and get a master's degree, because it's really expensive to go to school. And so we're able to offer an affordable experience that also has that student life experience that a lot of them are looking for. And then once they look into it, they actually see, oh, you're actually pretty competitive with a lot of programs here in the Northwest. And they see a lot of our athletes transferring to those schools that maybe they're considering. So it becomes a bit of a process.
Okay. And in the state of Oregon, is there like a STARS program or anything for high school students where if they have a certain academic standing and then maybe done X amount of community service hours, they have a different tuition or anything like that?
Yeah, one of the things I think that really helps is any students that have a 3.75 cumulative unweighted high school GPA, they actually get a tuition waiver to cover all of their tuition so long as they maintain a 3.0, which is about $7,000 a year. When you're talking about a school that costs $18,000 to $20,000 a year, all of a sudden you're taking $7,000 off the top. A lot of your cost is really living and eating, which you've got to do wherever you are, even if you stay at home, it becomes super affordable. So that's a really big program. Within the states out here, there are also kind of fast start programs that allow students to earn some credits. So I will have maybe about 20% of my team. They might only be with me for a year because they're already going to fulfill their associates and then transfer to wherever it is that they want to go. That happens often too.
Coach, we know when it comes to junior colleges, kids can go there, get their core classes, but we also know at junior colleges, there's unique certificate programs at certain colleges. Is there anything unique to Southwestern Oregon?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for bringing that up because I think a lot of students are interested in trades or some kind of, CTE type program. Here we have a nursing program, a paramedicine program, fire science. We have a dental assistant program. We have a new diesel mechanics program, and we have a prolific welding program with several instructors and its own complete facility with, of course, because we're out here on the coast, there's people that go into like maritime welding and all kinds of other trades. So we're able to offer a bunch of interesting CTE programs.
Man, Rich, I love those unique programs that junior colleges offer. I wish I would have partaken in them at one of my stints at a junior college.
You don't know what you don't know, my friend.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is there any forestry stuff? Or I guess because you guys are by the coast, it might.
Yeah, the forestry program here is big and has a relationship with the very well-established forestry program at Oregon State specifically, which is where many of our students will want to transfer to finish that degree. It actually has, I think, four or five different areas in forestry that they can focus in.
Okay. Is Coach Quintana still up at Oregon State?
I don't know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Louis
Yeah.
Quintana. He was a Foot Locker champion in
Oh,
like
Louis, yes.
yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear you correctly. Yeah, Louis is
Uh,
still there.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Um, from a high school coaching perspective, and now that you're in the college ranks, have you been able to use your connections as a high school coach and your time at Marshfield to bridge the gaps with some students and get some recruits that way?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was really helpful to come off of two back-to-back seasons with the track team where the boys won the team title. And some of the outstanding athletes that I was fortunate enough to coach were well known to a lot of the recruits that I would talk with, and they kind of build your street cred,
Yeah.
if you will, when you've coached a guy that runs 147 in the 800 at Nike Outdoor Nationals, and everybody knows who he is, and he's a super personable guy. It just really helps in the conversation when he turns and says, Coach Steve has
That's
taught
my
me a
guy.
lot. So it really helps. And having had all those years too, and all those relationships, and kind of knowing where they're coming from, I really enjoy in the recruitment process talking with them about the recruits, and then that recruit coming into college is they're only barely not a high school senior, right? And so I think for me as a coach, it's been really helpful to kind of know where they're coming from, and not just be in a college mentality, but how do I help guide them through bridging that gap, that transition into college, which I think is a big part of what a junior college experience should be about.
Was it hard to leave Marshfield?
Um, in some ways, it was just because that legacy and tradition. In other ways, it just became like it was time for a new challenge. It was time for that program to have a different voice, and the program here at Southwestern was one that I always thought, gosh, what could we do if we really focused on that and be sort of fun to kind of build that thing, and so it was hard to say goodbye to some of the athletes, when they're not quite done.
Mm.
Um, but but largely, yeah, it was just the timing was really good to make the change.
Coach, has your coaching changed at all at the college level?
Oh yeah. I think if you're as a coach, you have to be a lifelong learner, right? In fact, if I were to say one thing to any coach who's kind of either in my boat, maybe they're newer or they're trying to build a thing, it's get yourself, create yourself a great board of directors, whether they're people that you know personally or they're people whose content you watch or books you read that can help you think in new ways. Um, one of the guys who's one of my board of directors is actually a former competitor of mine. His name's Chris Johnson. He's just up the road in Florence, an hour to the north of us. And Chris is a guy that he's always learning and growing. I think he's got more state titles at Siuslaw High School than he's got fingers and toes. Um, and he's a phenomenal coach who is always changing. And I've really enjoyed every conversation I have with him. I learn something new or I confirm something that I thought about. And he's given me the confidence to go ahead. In fact, some of the tweaks that we even made this year were because of conversations that I had with him. So if you're a coach that's, build yourself a good board of directors and listen to that advice. I think one of the biggest things for me also this year was embracing more of that what drives winning kind of mentality, where I'm looking to develop character first. I'm looking to develop processes and an environment first and letting the results take care of itself. I totally stole that from a guy by the name of Brett Ledbetter, who is a sports psychologist, and what most colleges who employ him, they call him a thinking partner. He's got a bunch of great content out on YouTube that he talks about how do you develop character first. We really embraced that experience this year, and as a way to create connection among the team. And I think that allowed them to really kind of blossom as people, and then that bled over to them as runners. I don't know. Did I answer that question okay?
Yes, you did.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So, Coach, you got one, Rich?
You might steal my thunder, but go ahead.
I think I'm gonna. Coach, one thing we like to ask coaches when it comes to training, are you guys at Southwestern dabbling in double thresholds?
Well, we like to do some double threshes during the track season for those that it's appropriate to do that with. I'm a big fan as a coach of you kind of have a plan and then you bend that to each individual, right? I don't think I'm unique in that. I think that any good coach kind of does that. A good example of that is I've got guys that thrive under 80 miles a week, and I've got guys that anything over 50 and I might break them. Kind of depends on what they came from. And the double thresholds has definitely been something that some of the guys, like their responses, wow, that was really helpful, and others it wouldn't be the right call, but we have done them.
Coach, what's the training grounds like around Coos Bay?
That's a great question too. We're really a waterway community,
Yeah.
right? With the bay and a gazillion rivers coming into the ocean here. Not a lot of great green spaces per se, but we do have a packed sand and grass area that we can run on that's right along the bay that we get out to do a lot of our repeat work on. We can go out onto the spit where we can run either on the road or right off the road on packed sand and gravel. Obviously, we can run some on the beaches or the dunes. There's a little 4K loop that Pre used to train on that has a little bit of history that if we get out there, if I decide if we really want to get the transit super sandy for facilities to have to clean, but we can do some of that. Obviously, we go right out and do some runs where we're looking out over the Pacific Ocean. There's some trails out there, but it's not super prolific. So We tend to hop into the transit and take 15-minute drives to places to get more cross-country type runs.
Okay. Does the area and the notoriety of Coos Bay and Marshfield High and all of that stuff, does that have an impact? You said like it's lost a little bit maybe on some of the non-running kids at the high school level, but is that a draw for college kids?
I think it is for some. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it is for some. I've had students from states that you wouldn't really suspect that they know much about pre. Again, often it comes down to what is their coach said, right? If their
Hmm.
high school coach is a Prefontaine fan, talks about pre, maybe suggests they watch one of the movies, some pre quotes. While I was watching one of your episodes, the coach from Lansing even mentioned pre. You know, he's still very much in the American culture. And so for a lot of them, that's still like it's a cool thing for them that they know that streets we run on are streets that pre ran on. But it's not like, oh, that's the reason why they come here.
Sure.
I think they come here for their connection to each other. So.
Yeah. Now, do you guys have a track facility or are you using Marshfield High's track?
Oh yeah, we actually have an 8-lane track.
Nice.
It's about 100 meters from where I'm sitting right now here in the rec center. So yeah, it's a very nice sports facility for a junior college.
And will you guys do any indoor meets or will you guys kind of just circle the wagons here through the winter and start gearing up for outdoor and start outdoor maybe a little bit earlier?
Yeah, I think like most two-year colleges, indoor is an unofficial season where you're going to compete, unattached. But we do like the idea of keeping that stimulus of we're not just constantly training all the time, but we're gonna go and compete. Every other year, we like to make a trip to Spokane to the Podium, and then this year we're going to go to University of Nevada, Reno's facility as our big travel meet. Because the weather is so nice on this side of the Cascades, there's not a lot of facilities. University of Portland has they have a 220-meter track, I think, around their basketball arena that we'll go to do a couple of things just for fun. So just a couple unofficial.
You ever get up to the 300-meter track in University of Washington at all?
I have not been to that. Maybe that would be on the radar at some point if do you recommend it?
I've never been there, but I just know over the years that there's been some phenomenal performances that have come out of there. And we growing up on the Northeast, indoor track is it's
Sure.
almost probably as big, if not bigger, than outdoor track in some regards because it is a longer season. They have races before Christmas and they'll run to the end of February and net with nationals into
Yeah.
March. So you kind of
Yeah.
like bleed right into outdoor track sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just to give you guys a sense, I've lived here 26 years. I think I've seen it snow 4 times. I've
Oh,
seen
wow.
it stick twice. It's almost 5 o'clock right now. It's 58 degrees outside, with probably just the lightest of drizzle. So it's really kind of a distance runner's paradise because we're kind of that wet rainforesty kind of climate. We never get too hot, maybe 70. We never really get too cold. Very rare to see days below 30 here
Okay.
on the Oregon coast.
That sounds good, Jim.
How's the sun there? You see the sun a lot?
I wouldn't say that we see it a lot.
All right,
Uh,
all right. You had me
we,
to then.
I know. We see it. We definitely see it some, but not. I wouldn't say a lot. Not as much as I would probably like, but I like so many of the other things about
Yeah,
living here.
I feel you. We'll definitely have to look into it, Rich.
And y'all are south of Eugene, coastal south, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Southeast,
Yeah.
southwest rather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you took the Oregon coast and divided into thirds, we're on the very top of the bottom third.
Okay.
Yeah.
Coach, is there anything about you or Southwestern Oregon that we haven't covered that you want our audience to know?
What do you think? You're the pro. What haven't we covered?
I think we covered a good portion. One thing not necessarily regarding the program, but in our communication, you had told me that this isn't your only job that you have. How do you find time to run a successful program, a championship winning program, and do the rest of your life?
Well, I'm not that maybe somebody could set out to do this, but I got to tell you, fellas, I was fortunate enough to pick the right wife. She is amazing in letting me, live out my passion of speaking into the life of young people through the language of distance running. And she has listened to a lot of recruit calls from across the room as I'm sitting at the kitchen bar, just talking with young athletes, and she's very giving of that opportunity. She's a third grade school teacher, so she has a real passion for kids as well, and that's definitely really helpful. It's a lot of work, but I love it. I'm also the director of student life and the rec center here, so all of my jobs at Southwestern are forward facing to students, where I get to work with the student clubs and the student government, and I love it. It's just super fun to be able to, I think, as Rich said at one point, help them become better humans, right? It's super meaningful to be part of that experience.
So you said your wife sits across the kitchen bar from you when you're on recruiting calls. Do you ever get off a call and your wife goes, "Nah, not that one"?
There will be sometimes where I'm doing a lot of the talking, where she's like, that was that kid pretty quiet, kind of hard to draw out a little bit. Yeah, that was a little bit hard, tougher conversation. Or sometimes she'll say, "Wow, you were so honest and so blunt with that recruit," which is just kind of how I'm just a truth teller. I'm not smart enough to do it any other way. But I try and always say things because I care, right? We're going to have some honest conversations about where things are at. And I'm never afraid to ask, kind of tough questions. I guess if I were to give another piece of advice to any coach who might be still listening to this, that there's something good to take out of it, it's a thing that I've really learned as a coach is to lean into conflict. Don't be afraid of it. Conflict is an opportunity to build relationship and connection by addressing whatever the issue is. I really do that with the kids, whether that's us having a rule or an expectation that they're having some difficulty with. Following. Let's say it's showing up to practice on time, and I'm not like a fire and brimstone guy, but if I'm noticing, Rich, that practice starts at 7 a.m. and you're coming in regularly at 7:02, probably the second or third time, I'm just gonna have a real quick, "Hey, I'm just checking in with you about this," and then because that happens, they're able to modulate their behavior, which keeps them connected to each other on the team because Rich is showing up on time. I'm sure you were always on time, Rich. I'm just picking on you.
15 minutes early is on time is late, coach.
Probably the way you were raised, right?
Yes,
Yep,
sir.
for better or worse.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's a good habit.
Coach, I have one last one for you before we get into the final four.
Yeah.
I'm curious, which is more difficult? Recruiting a kid in high school who you see has potential but has never run cross country, track and field before, or recruiting a college athlete who is invested in the sport already, but to get them to come to a new place, or competing with other coaches that might be fighting for their attention as well?
Which is harder? Wow. I don't often get stumped. That's a great one. I want to say getting the high school athlete to do something new is probably a little bit harder. Although, guys, our program at Marshfield was like kids wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And it was fun, and it was fun to be a part of. And every year we'd get athletes out sometimes their senior year, and they would always say, what you
Wish I
can
would have done
imagine, I
this
would say,
sooner.
I wish I would have done this sooner, right? Um, and how much they enjoyed it, but the word would get out about that. Obviously, when you're at a school where the older you get in life, and even as a high schooler, you have to say no to some things, even good things, because you can only do so much, right? And sometimes you wouldn't get an athlete that you'd love to have because they were just super committed to playing softball, and I would get that. So that was probably maybe a little bit harder. That's a good question though.
Yeah, I'm always curious because, sometimes you can get through to a kid that, because we have soccer in the spring down here. So I've been trying to get soccer kids to, convince them that, hey, this is going to help you for the spring for soccer. And I've gotten through to a couple, but I'm always curious because, as track coaches, especially, we can see potential in different kids from different sports. Like, even if it's not from a running perspective, 800, 1600, 3200 meters, like, oh, maybe you can hurdle, or you might be a high jumper. Obviously the football players, you can get them to do a lot of different things.
Yeah. We would have Marshall had a very excellent dance program. We'd have a couple of dancers that would be excellent triple jumpers because they could learn that rhythm. Excellent volleyball program. In fact, my niece was part of 2 state titles, and she's playing collegiately now volleyball, where my sister-in-law, actually, she's the head coach at Marshfield. And we'd have some excellent javelin throwers and some of the hitters in volleyball, and we would get them to double up sometimes and slide over and work some things around when we could.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Final four, Rich.
Let's do it.
Coach, first one I got for you. Are you a coffee drinker?
Absolutely.
How do you brew your coffee and how do you take it?
I have a Keurig and I drink it black, and it's 2 cups a day every day.
All right.
Respect.
Dark roast.
Okay. All right. Coach, do you have any daily practices or rituals you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of Steve Delgado?
Every morning when I drink my first cup of coffee, I sit on the sofa with my dog curled up next to me and I watch YouTube videos. And that's how I, in looking through, I guess, my algorithm, that's how I tripped into Brett Ledbetter, which I mentioned. It's how I've sort of built my my board of directors, if you will, of those people that don't know me, but I know all about them, and kind of get that content. I don't know that there's a day that goes by unless I'm not at home that I don't do that.
Is there anyone else on your board of directors? Is there some YouTube creators that you could recommend?
When I was at Marshfield, my last 2 years, I coached every running event and the hurdles. And I needed a way to make that all work with also being the distance coach. And I found a guy named Tony Haller who has a program called Feed the Cats.
Feed the Cats. Yep.
And I am telling you, it was a life changer for us. It's one of the reasons why we won 2 titles. We literally, the boys, our first year, that 4x1 placed second at state, and there wasn't a single guy of those 4 that were a top 5 open 100 guy in our league. But it's because of Tony's great content, and then the offshoot of that, the people that he's been connected with has been super meaningful. I love to watch anything from Mike Smith, formerly of NAU. I think his stuff is super great. I'm a big fan of Steve Magnus and all of his stuff. We loved it. Well, I love to geek out, but love the examples of the stuff that he's got out there as well. But then there's also like, do you want to hear some of the non?
Yeah, we're here for it. Absolutely. We love learning new things.
I love Simon Sinek. I love, just his management stuff, his stuff that's focused on finding your why and your purpose. I like to bring that into the stuff that we do. Brene Brown, I don't know if that name resonates with you guys at all, but I showed a clip to the team about her whole take on empathy, and we had a team discussion about, building our skill around that. Yeah, I enjoy a lot of that stuff as well.
Okay, yeah. Fun fact about me, I had a life that I lived when I worked for Lululemon, and so I learned about Bernie Brown during my time at Lululemon from some of the ladies that were there. They shared her with me, so I'm familiar with her.
Yeah, it's great stuff, and all part of that, making them better humans.
Yeah.
That is so much of what we do. I mean, if you thought about it, Rich, what percentage of your coaching is the actual X and O's, if you will, versus everything else?
Oh, X's and O's is a small part.
Yeah,
That's the fun part, but it's
a
the easy
small.
part, and
Yep.
it's
Yeah.
you're doing a lot of you got your psychologist hat on, you got your tough love mom and dad hat that they might not get at home. You've also got the good cop that they might not get at home. You got to do a
Yeah.
lot of different things.
Yeah. Plus, you've got to order the uniforms, make the Gatorade, drive the van.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff to do.
Well, that was, down here in South Carolina, that's a new experience to me. In Jersey, we always had buses provided and bus drivers. So I had to drive to the state qualifier this year and to the state championships, and the state championships was over 2 hours away. So that was is a new kind of stress that you're not used to doing, but when you're responsible for 14 student athletes and an
Mhm.
assistant coach, you're like 10
Yeah.
and 2 white knuckling it.
Yeah, yeah. You want a quick unsolicited piece of advice on those trips that we started doing this year?
Hmm.
So I never liked that we would get into the van and everybody would just kind of get into their own little cocoon and get on their device and whatever. So this year, and the team really embraced it. We started having talking sessions where I would hand out a handful of questions for them to discuss with their teammates sitting like in their row. We call it the first 40, and I say the first 40 minutes, we're not going to turn on our phones and we're going to discuss these questions to get to know ourselves and each other better. Oh my gosh. What was awesome about it was not only how they embraced it, but oftentimes after the 40 minutes were over, the kids
Keep
who
going.
needed to kind of unplug, they'd do that. But a lot of them, they just keep talking. And we talked that whole, 2 or 3 hour ride about life and whatever they thought about things. And those were the things that developed the connection with the team.
I love it.
Well, I don't know how Rich handles the team, but when I am his passenger, I am not allowed to have headphones in, so I can relate. Coach, kind of build it off your last answer. What are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
Yes. So Brett Ledbetter that I mentioned, he has a podcast called What Drives Winning. I like to listen to him. I also like to listen to Dan Tudor's stuff on college recruiting. He works with colleges on kind of their recruitment processes. I love to listen to his stuff as a way to make me think about those sorts of things. Um, I'm a I'm a I'm a big grunge fan because
You have to be.
I mean, yeah, Pearl Jam 10 was the album of my college experience, right? Going to Oregon State in the early 90s. So if I had a musical choice, that probably would be it.
Nice. Coach, last one we got for you to close it out is the lighthearted one. Maybe it's a unique food item that we don't know about out there in the Pacific Northwest. We know there's a lot of great beverages that come out of the Pacific Northwest. Maybe you're a golfer, maybe you're a fisherman. You mentioned you had a daughter, maybe you're a closet Swiftie. Do you have a guilty pleasure?
I am a closet Swiftie. I actually have two daughters, with the son in the middle, and they both are enormous Swifties. And fun fact about me, Taylor Swift and I share a birthday. So
Nice.
December 13th, so coming up here on Saturday. And my daughters they are so pleased about that, and have so much fun with that. So yes, I am a closet Swiftie. I think I have every one of her albums on my iPhone.
Nice.
That's first, Ridge.
I think it is.
Coach Delgado, thank you so much for your time this evening. Thank you for educating us on the NWAC, Southwestern Oregon, and a little Marshfield High nostalgia for the Airey Bros. Thank you so much for your time, and best of luck with the team.
Thanks, guys. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great to chat with you this evening, and I second everything that Jimmy said. We do greatly appreciate your time. It was great to meet you, and it's always fun for us because we get new coaches, new athletes, new programs to root for, and like we said, we love the Pacific Northwest and hope to get back out west sooner rather than later. But enjoy your birthday on Saturday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Make sure you dance a little bit at the kitchen, in the kitchen party to some Taylor Swift.
Yeah, me and Taylor Swift, like we're 22. Yeah.
Best of luck with the training this winter, and we'll be looking forward to following you in the outdoor season.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is Coach Steve Delgado from Southwestern Oregon Community College. Make sure you go give the Lakers a little love on socials. Let them know the Airey Bros sent you. If you do have any questions, please go to the link on the website. We'll put that in the show notes. Hit up Coach Delgado and let him know you're interested. And we will be back next week on Monday evening with Tom Boyd from Gannon University. That is all for the Airey Bros this week. We hope you have a great rest of your week and enjoy your weekend. And if you remember, make sure you wish Coach Delgado a happy birthday on Saturday. Until next time, folks, it's